Get ready, because what you thought would take years, God can turn around in a moment. What you assumed would be slow, painful, and exhausting, God is about to do suddenly. I came to announce to someone who has been praying quietly, crying privately, and believing against all odds. Heaven has been listening. You've been faithful in the wait. Faithful when doors closed. Faithful when people doubted. Faithful when nothing made sense. And now, at the very moment you thought nothing was happening, God was aligning things you couldn't see. While you were being tested, He was preparing the testimony. While you were stretched, He was setting the stage. Suddenly doesn't mean without process. Suddenly is the reward for endurance. Suddenly is what happens when preparation meets divine timing. Suddenly is when God interrupts the ordinary with the extraordinary and reminds you that He does not operate on human clocks. You may feel overlooked, underqualified, or exhausted, but hear this clearly: delay is not denial. What God promised still stands. What He spoke still lives. What He started, He will finish, and He will finish it in a way that leaves no doubt it was Him. So lift your expectation. Strengthen your faith. Don't give up now. You are closer than you think. This is the season where one call, one shift, one word, one moment can change everything. Get ready. Get ready. Get ready. God is about to do it suddenly. There are moments in life when it feels like everything is pulling on you at once. Pressure from responsibilities, expectations from people, silence from answers you've been praying for, and wait from seasons that don't seem to end. You wake up tired, not because you didn't sleep, but because your soul is exhausted. And in those moments, you start asking questions you never thought you would ask. God, why is this so hard? Why am I still here? Why does it feel like I'm doing everything right, yet nothing is moving? But hear this clearly. The stretching you are experiencing is not punishment, it is preparation. Stretching is uncomfortable by nature. Nothing grows without resistance. Nothing expands without tension. Muscles don't develop without being pulled beyond what they are used to, and faith doesn't mature without being tested beyond what feels manageable. The very fact that you are being stretched is evidence that God intends to enlarge you. If He were finished with you, there would be no pressure. If there were no future attached to your life, there would be no resistance. Stretching is proof that something greater is coming. You see, suddenly does not happen in shallow places. Suddenly does not visit people who quit at the first sign of discomfort. Suddenly comes to those who stayed when it would have been easier to walk away. It comes to those who kept believing when they had every reason to doubt. It comes to those who learned how to worship while waiting, how to serve while hurting, and how to trust while trembling. The stretch is not meant to break you. It is meant to make room for what God is about to release. Many people want the suddenly, but they resist the stretching. They want the breakthrough without the burden, the elevation without the endurance, the promise without the process. But God is too wise to give you a blessing that your character cannot sustain. If He released it too early, it would crush you. If He answered it too fast, you would mishandle it. So He stretches you, not to harm you, but to strengthen you. Not to humiliate you, but to prepare you. Stretching exposes your weak places. It forces you to confront areas where you depended on people more than God, comfort more than calling, or routine more than faith. In the stretch, your prayers change. You stop asking for convenience and start asking for clarity. You stop asking for ease and start asking for endurance. You stop saying, God, fix this, and start saying, God, fix me. And that internal shift is where transformation begins. There are seasons where God seems silent, not because He has abandoned you, but because He is developing you. Silence is not absence. Often the teacher is quiet during the test, not because the lesson isn't important, but because you are expected to apply what you've already learned. The stretch proves whether you truly believe what you said you believed when things were easier. It reveals whether your faith is rooted or just emotional. What you may not realize is that while you feel stretched on one level, God is expanding your capacity on another. He is enlarging your vision, deepening your compassion, sharpening your discernment, and strengthening your spiritual backbone. You are learning how to carry weight you couldn't carry before. You are learning how to stand without applause, how to obey without explanation, and how to trust without guarantees. That kind of growth cannot be rushed. The stretch also teaches humility. It reminds you that you cannot do this by your own strength. It strips away pride and replaces it with dependence. It teaches you how to lean, how to listen, and how to surrender. And surrender is not weakness, it is alignment. When you finally let go of how you thought it should happen, you make room for God to do it His way. And His way often includes suddenly. Think about this. The longest stretching often comes right before the greatest release. The tension increases because you are close. The resistance intensifies because something is about to shift. The enemy doesn't fight what isn't a threat. He doesn't resist what has no future. The pressure you feel is not random. It is an indicator that you are nearing a turning point. Stretching builds spiritual muscle. It teaches you patience in a culture that demands speed, faith in a world that trusts only what it can see, and perseverance in a generation that gives up too quickly. You are learning how to keep showing up when nothing changes, how to keep praying when answers delay, and how to keep believing when circumstances contradict your confession. That kind of endurance cannot be faked. And here is the powerful truth. When the suddenly comes, it will make sense why you were stretched. You will look back and realize that you needed every tear, every delay, every closed door, and every difficult lesson. You will see that God was aligning you with the blessing, not just positioning the blessing for you. He was making sure that when it arrived, you wouldn't lose it, abuse it, or waste it. So don't despise the stretch. Don't curse the season that is shaping you. Don't give up just because it hurts. Growth always hurts before it heals. Expansion always feels tight before it feels freeing. What feels like strain today will become strength tomorrow. What feels heavy now will become testimony later. Stay faithful in the stretch. Keep praying even when your voice shakes. Keep believing even when your mind has questions. Keep standing even when your knees feel weak. Because suddenly does not come to the unprepared. It comes to those who were willing to be stretched. And when God does it suddenly, you will know it didn't happen overnight. It happened because you endured, you stayed, you trusted, you grew. And now you are ready. There are seasons in life when the clock feels like your enemy. You look at your age, your situation, your bank account, your unanswered prayers, and you start measuring your life against time. You feel behind. You feel late. You feel like you missed something, wasted something, or waited too long. You watch others move ahead, achieve faster, celebrate sooner, and you quietly wonder, God, what about me? But hear this truth deep in your spirit. Divine timing is never late, even when it feels delayed. God does not operate on human calendars. He is not pressured by deadlines, intimidated by age, or confused by urgency. What feels like a long wait to you is a brief moment in eternity. What feels overdue in your emotions is perfectly on time in His will. We rush because we see fragments. God waits because He sees the full picture. He knows what needs to line up, who needs to move out of the way, what needs to grow in you, and what needs to mature around you before the promise can be released. Delay does not mean God forgot. Delay does not mean God said no. Delay often means God is protecting you from receiving something before you are ready to sustain it. There are blessings that look good in prayer, but would be dangerous if given too soon. There are doors you beg God to open that would have destroyed your peace, your purpose, or your faith if they had opened early. God's timing is an act of mercy, not punishment. We often mistake waiting for inactivity, but God is always working, even when you cannot see movement. While you are waiting, He is arranging. While you are waiting, He is removing what doesn't belong and reinforcing what does. While you are waiting, He is developing your character so that when the opportunity arrives, you won't sabotage it with immaturity, fear, or pride. Timing is not just about the event, it is about the person receiving it. Impatience will always try to rush you into counterfeit versions of what God promised. When you are tired of waiting, you become vulnerable to shortcuts. You start forcing connections, chasing opportunities, and settling for less than what God intended. But anything you rush ahead of God, you will have to maintain without Him. What God gives in His timing, He sustains by His power. What you take early, you must carry alone. There are moments when it feels like heaven is silent, but silence does not mean inactivity. Some of the greatest moves God makes happen underground, out of sight, before they ever appear on the surface. Seeds grow in darkness before they break through soil. Roots go deep before fruit becomes visible. If everything happened instantly, nothing would last. Depth takes time. Stability takes time. Alignment takes time. God's timing also includes other people. Sometimes it's not about you being ready. It's about someone else needing to move, mature, leave, or step into position. God is orchestrating multiple lives at once. He is connecting paths, shifting hearts, and opening doors in ways you cannot control. If He released you too early, you would arrive at a place that wasn't prepared for you yet. And preparation works both ways. You may feel late, but God is not bound by your past. He can restore years in moments. He can accelerate what looks stalled. He can compress time and bring fulfillment faster than you imagine. When God moves, He doesn't need permission from your history. He doesn't need approval from your age. He doesn't need evidence from your circumstances. He specializes in making things happen at the right moment, not the expected moment. What you call delay, God calls development. He is strengthening your discernment so you won't repeat old mistakes. He is deepening your faith so you won't fall apart under pressure. He is teaching you patience so you won't quit when success comes with responsibility. He is teaching you obedience so you won't ignore Him when doors finally open. Timing shapes your spirit as much as it shapes your outcome. There is also something powerful about waiting that changes how you receive the blessing. When it comes after patience, you value it more. You steward it better. You protect it differently. You recognize that it was not earned by effort alone, but granted by grace. Waiting humbles you, and humility prepares you to carry weight without being crushed by it. The danger is not that God is late. The danger is given up too early. Many people quit moments before the shift. They walk away just before the breakthrough. They stop believing when heaven is already in motion. Timing often feels longest right before it changes. The tension increases because the transition is near. The pressure builds because the release is close. Trusting divine timing requires faith beyond feelings. It requires believing when nothing confirms it. It requires obedience when you don't understand it. It requires rest when anxiety tells you to panic. Faith says, even if I don't see it yet, I trust that God knows when. And that trust positions you for suddenly. When God's time arrives, it will override every delay. What took years to prepare may take moments to manifest. What you thought would be slow may happen quickly. What looked impossible may unfold effortlessly. That is the power of divine timing. It redeems the wait and validates the faith. So stop accusing yourself of being late. Stop replaying what you should have done differently. Stop measuring your progress against someone else's timeline. Your life is not behind. Your promise is not canceled. Your season is not missed. You are right where God can still do what he said he would do. Rest in this truth. If God promised it, he scheduled it, and when the appointed time comes, nothing can stop it, delay it, or deny it. Divine timing is never late, it is always right. There is a misconception many people carry in their hearts that acceleration comes from luck, connections, or sudden favor alone. But true acceleration is almost always unlocked by preparation. God does not accelerate chaos, he accelerates readiness. When heaven decides to move quickly in your life, it is because something in you has been made ready to handle the speed. Acceleration without preparation would not be a blessing, it would be a burden. Preparation often looks unimpressive. It happens in obscurity, in routine obedience, in seasons where no one is applauding your effort. It looks like showing up when you feel tired, being faithful when you feel unseen, and doing the right thing when it seems like no one notices. Preparation is built in the quiet moments when you choose discipline over convenience and faith over frustration. These moments may feel small, but they are shaping your capacity for what is coming. God prepares you long before he promotes you. He develops your character before he expands your platform. He strengthens your foundation before he increases your influence. Many people ask God to speed things up, but God is asking them to slow down long enough to grow. Because if he accelerates you beyond your preparation, the very blessing you prayed for could expose your weaknesses instead of showcasing your purpose. Preparation is how God protects you. It teaches you how to manage pressure, how to handle responsibility, and how to stay grounded when things move fast. Acceleration brings visibility, decisions, expectations, and weight. Without preparation, speed becomes overwhelming. With preparation, speed becomes supernatural. What looks sudden to others is simply the unveiling of work that was done in private. Every season you thought was wasting time was actually building something in you. The delay taught you patience. The struggle taught you endurance. The disappointment taught you discernment. The waiting taught you how to trust God without needing constant confirmation. These lessons are not optional. They are essential. When acceleration comes, you won't have time to learn them. You will need to already know them. God often prepares you in ways that don't seem connected to where you are going. He has you serving when you want to lead, learning when you want to advance, and waiting when you want to move. But preparation is rarely comfortable or obvious. It stretches you beyond your preferences and pushes you beyond your comfort zone. That stretch is expanding your capacity so that when things begin to move quickly, you don't collapse under the weight of success. Preparation also refines your motives. It reveals why you want what you want. It separates ambition from assignment. It purifies your desires so that when God accelerates you, your heart is aligned with his purpose, not your ego. God is not just interested in what you can do. He is deeply invested in who you are becoming. Acceleration amplifies whatever is already inside you. Preparation ensures that what gets amplified is healthy. Many people admire sudden breakthroughs without realizing the years of preparation behind them. They see the open door, but not the closed ones that built resilience. They see the success, but not the sacrifices that built strength. God never skips preparation because preparation is what makes acceleration sustainable. Quick growth without depth always leads to collapse. There is also preparation happening around you, not just within you. God is aligning relationships, shifting environments, and positioning opportunities. He is removing distractions that would slow you down later. He is teaching you when to say no so you can say yes to what matters. He is training your discernment so you don't waste momentum on the wrong things when acceleration comes. Preparation requires obedience even when progress feels slow. It requires consistency when results are invisible. It requires faith when emotions are tired. But obedience in preparation is powerful. Every time you obey in the small things, you prove that you can be trusted with greater things. Trust is what unlocks speed in the spirit. God accelerates what he trusts. Acceleration often looks sudden to people, but it is never sudden to God. He has been watching your faithfulness, tracking your growth, and measuring your readiness. When preparation meets opportunity, God compresses time. What would have taken years happens in months. What would have taken months happens in moments. That is not randomness, that is reward. When acceleration comes, you will move faster than you imagine, but you will not feel lost because preparation gave you clarity. You will not feel afraid because preparation gave you confidence. You will not feel overwhelmed because preparation gave you stability. The speed will not scare you because you have already been trained for it in slower seasons. This is why you must not resent where you are. Every task you do with excellence, every challenge you endure with integrity, every delay you navigate with faith is preparing you for acceleration. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is random. Nothing is overlooked. God is intentional about every stage of your journey. Preparation unlocks acceleration because it aligns you with God's trust. And when God trusts you, he moves you quickly, powerfully, suddenly. There are moments in life when everything changes not because of a long process, but because of a single shift. One moment, one decision, one conversation, one divine interruption. We often underestimate the power of a moment because we are conditioned to think change must be slow. We assume transformation requires years, steps, and struggle. But when God steps into a situation, he can do in seconds what effort could not do in decades. One moment can change everything. A moment is not random, it is orchestrated. It is the intersection of preparation, timing, and divine purpose. You may have walked through years of confusion, delay, and disappointment, but that does not mean your future will unfold the same way. God does not need your past to approve your future. He only needs one moment of alignment, and when that moment arrives, it overrides everything that came before it. Think about how fragile moments are. A sentence spoken at the right time can heal wounds that years of silence could not fix. A door opened at the right moment can shift an entire family's direction. A decision made in faith can reroute the course of your life. That is why the enemy works so hard to keep people distracted, discouraged, and divided. Because if you miss the moment, you delay the manifestation. Not because God stopped moving, but because readiness matters. Moments are powerful because they carry momentum. When God moves, he moves with authority. He does not ask permission from circumstances. He does not negotiate with history. He does not wait for conditions to be perfect. He steps into imperfection and declares that now is the time. And when God declares a moment, resistance loses its grip. The challenge is that moments rarely look dramatic before they happen. They often appear ordinary, subtle, even inconvenient. The call you didn't feel like answering. The opportunity that seemed too small. The instruction that didn't make sense. Many life-changing moments are missed because they don't arrive with warning or fanfare. They come disguised as choices that test obedience and trust. One moment can require courage. Courage to say yes when fear says no. Courage to step forward when logic says stay back. Courage to obey when the outcome is unclear. Faith is often expressed in moments, not in speeches. It shows up when you act despite uncertainty. And that act can unlock everything. One moment can also require humility. Sometimes change happens when you admit you need help, when you release control, when you forgive, when you apologize, or when you let go of what you've been holding too tightly. Pride delays moments. Humility invites them. God resists stubbornness but responds to surrender. We often pray for change while overlooking the moments that create it. We ask God to move mountains, but hesitate when he asks us to move our feet. We want miracles without responsibility. but moments demand participation. God provides the power, but you provide the response. Heaven opens the door, but you must walk through it. The beauty of a moment is that it does not require perfection, only willingness. You don't have to have it all together. You don't have to know everything. You just have to be open. God specializes in working with availability more than ability. A willing heart in the right moment is more powerful than talent without obedience. One moment can rewrite identity. You may have spent years seeing yourself one way, limited, broken, overlooked, but in a moment, God can remind you who you really are. One word from Him can silence years of doubt. One encounter can restore confidence you thought was gone forever. Identity shifts don't always take time. Sometimes they take revelation. Moments also test focus. In critical moments, distractions become dangerous. Fear, opinions, and past experiences try to speak louder than faith. That is why spiritual awareness matters. You have to be sensitive enough to recognize when God is moving. Missing a moment does not mean God stops being faithful, but it may mean you walk a longer road than necessary. There are people who stayed stuck not because they lacked opportunity, but because they hesitated when the moment came. They overthought, delayed, or doubted. Moments don't always wait for certainty. Sometimes certainty comes after obedience. Faith steps first, understanding follows later. God can compress years into moments. He can restore what was lost, redeem what was broken, and revive what was dead in a single encounter. That is not exaggeration, that is His nature. He is not limited by time. When He decides that a season is over, it ends. When He decides that a door is open, it opens. And when He decides that now is the moment, nothing can stop it. This is why you must stay ready. Readiness is not about anxiety, it is about alignment. It is about living with expectancy, obedience, and faith. When you live ready, you don't panic when moments arrive. You respond. You don't hesitate, you move. One moment can change everything, but that moment favors those who are prepared, attentive, and willing. Stay open, stay faithful, stay sensitive, because when God decides it's time, your life can shift faster than you ever imagined. And when it does, you'll realize that the wait was long, but the moment was worth it. There comes a point when God moves in such a way that no explanation can take credit except Him. No array summe can justify it. No connection can claim it. No strategy can explain it. When God does it suddenly, He does it so clearly, so precisely, and so powerfully that the only conclusion anyone can reach is, this was the hand of God. And that is exactly the point. Your suddenly is not just about your relief. It is about His glory. God is intentional about how He blesses. He could do it quietly, but sometimes He chooses to do it publicly. He could do it gradually, but sometimes He chooses to do it suddenly. Why? Because He wants to silence doubt, correct disbelief, and reveal His power through your life. When God glorifies Himself through you, your life becomes a living testimony that faith is not foolish and trust is not wasted. There are seasons where God allows things to look impossible on purpose. He lets the odds stack against you. He allows resources to run low. He permits doors to close and options to disappear. Not because He wants to embarrass you, but because He wants the miracle to be undeniable. If it could have happened by human effort, people would have given humans the credit. But when God does it suddenly, no one can deny who did it. Your suddenly will shock the people who counted you out. It will confuse the ones who thought your season was over. It will humble the voices that assumed they knew your ending. But more than that, it will strengthen the faith of those who were watching quietly, wondering if God still moves. Your breakthrough will preach a sermon your mouth never could. God uses testimonies to restore hope. When people see what He did for you, it reminds them of what He can do for them. Your suddenly becomes someone else's encouragement. Your restoration becomes someone else's reminder. your victory becomes someone else's faith fuel. This is why God does not waste pain. He transforms it into proof. When God glorifies himself through your suddenly, it also changes how you see him. You stop limiting him to what makes sense. You stop boxing him into past experiences. You stop expecting small outcomes from a limitless God. A suddenly expands your faith because it shows you that God can move faster, bigger, and deeper than you imagine. But glorifying God through your suddenly also requires humility. You must remember where you came from. You must remember who sustained you when nothing was moving. You must remember